Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Electric Avenue's YouTube updates. Thanks for joining me again. We're doing the new releases today in the store for November 22nd, 2024. Closing in on, it's going to be 5 years of doing this in a few more months. Crazy. Anyway, so I got a lot to get to. It's a pretty big new release week. Black Friday, the record store day Black Friday, RSD Black Friday is just around the corner. That's November 29th, the day after Thanksgiving. So don't load up on turkey too much, because if your tryptophan levels go a little bit through the roof, you might not wake up to get in line for the good stuff. Yeah, I would say, we open at 8 a.m. that day, Black Friday. You might be asking yourself, why are they doing this? Maybe you're new and you haven't seen this. So there are basically 2 record store days a year set up by the Record Store Day organization, I suppose. And there are about 150 limited titles that come out, exclusive indie store releases for those events. The one in April is much bigger. It's the one that usually get close to 500 new releases in a day. So definitely be looking for that when we get into the spring. But this one is the sort of lighter fall one. But there are some good things on the list, and we're starting to get a lot of that stuff in already. So be prepared, be ready for the day. Most people usually line up around 6:30. If there's something on that list that they really want, and hopefully we don't run out of everything right away, but it's hard to say. I mean, maybe that's a good thing for the business, but maybe not, because you don't really want to run out of everything. But there are some things that I saw that were heavily allocated as usual, so that's always sad. But I would say that sometimes those things do pop up later. It's like they call it like first release, where they'll have it out for the event, and then in another couple weeks or a month or whatever, they'll reissue or they'll press more of that. So not in every case for sure, but don't be too discouraged. And one thing that they did put out is a little Beatles. This is like a carrying case with a 3-inch record for All My Loving. They did, back in the spring, they did a little turntable, mini turntable, that had 4 of the Beatles records in it on 3-inch singles, little 45s, little tiny guys. And this one, this is just the 45 and the snazzy little carrying case. So Crossley makes these. Carrying case looks cool. It's more of a collector sort of novelty item, but if you got the 4 records and the little turntable back in the spring, you may want the 5th record and the cute little carrying case. So we'll have a few of those. Not a ton, because how many people have 3-inch records out there? Well, I mean, probably, there's more all the time, and people need things to put their 3-inch records in. So now the big release this week, I suppose, archival, and going along with that theme, is the Beatles box set of the US mono albums. So these are the early ones, starting with Meet the Beatles, going up through the early years. It's kind of heavy. This box has, I believe, 8 records in it. Replicas of the 7 original mono US album releases. One of them was a double. It was called The Beatles Story, which is sort of like a mixture of like narration and music. These are analog cut from the original master tapes on 180-gram audiophile vinyl. Includes inserts featuring in-depth essay on the history of each album. These are kind of limited, I think. We're sort of finding that out. Made in France. I mentioned early on, I said, if you want one of these, you need to let me know in advance, because I'm not going to have them on the shelf unless you really want them. And those boxes do sell for about $300, so they're not cheap, which is also probably a negative for some people, but archival, and if you're a fan, you may be wanting that. What else was I going to say about that? So the Beatles story is exclusive to the box set, that double album, and the others are all going to be made available as singles. Now you ask yourself, well, what's the deal? Why do I want the U.S. mono versus the U.K. mono? Well, the UK monos were sort of the official ones for sure, and they're the ones that the Beatles worked on the most. They didn't even really like it was later in the 60s when they started doing a lot more stereo mixes. They still sort of favored the mono for a while. But in America, to kind of get the ball rolling, they would take things like artwork and stuff and sort of change it, bastardize it in a way, but also kind of make it more juiced. They added reverb to it because the American kids really liked their rock and roll. And so to make them a little bit hotter sounding, they did that. But they also cut and mixed up all of the songs. So everything, the track listings were all different. This is why the Beatles said in the mid couple years into their career, they're like, our albums are being butchered in America, hence the butcher cover, the infamous one of them in lab coats holding little sort of dismembered baby dolls, kind of like a sort of like a meat circus sort of image. And that's one of their most sought after records now because it was pulled from shelves for being a little too in the parents' faces. But anyway, so if you find that, that tends to be worth a fair amount of money now. And they have not reissued the butcher cover. Maybe they should. But in any event, so you get these different. They're the American versions of these albums with track listings that are sort of rejigged. And if you're in the UK, at first I was thinking, well, why would anyone in the UK want these? Because they have the official versions. And I've seen videos and heard talk where people in the UK are very curious about these because they didn't get them over there. They didn't hear them. So they sort of want to hear what the Americans were hearing. So we have Meet the Beatles. This is the first one. This is the one with I Want to Hold Your Hand, and I saw her standing there. All My Loving is on this, Till There Was You. And then these are mono editions, the original US mono, so not the stereo where you got the vocals over here and the drums over here. And although those were kind of cool too, because a lot of kids learned how to play and sing based on if they could tune Paul's voice out and just sing along with the drums and bass or whatever. Beatles' second album, also sort of one of their most popular. This one features Roll Over Beethoven, You Really Got a Hold on Me, Money, You Can't Do That, She Loves You ends this album. So these two are probably, I would say, the most popular, I suppose, maybe the biggest sellers of all of them. Now the third one, Hard Day's Night, in the UK it was an actual album per se. In America it was sort of the soundtrack to the film, so they put in a few of the songs vocal. They list those, that there's 8 of them, and then it's mixed with like 4 more instrumentals. So it was kind of a little bit of a mixed bag. If you're a Beatles fan, I suppose my guess would be that you were probably waiting for the instrumental to finish so you could get to the next song with someone actually singing. That's my guess anyway. And plus the instrumentals were done by other people, I believe. I mean, I think it was more, I don't know. I never really bothered to listen to this album, to be quite honest. I love the Beatles, but I'm not like the super aficionado. And I do know the British albums because those were reissued much later, and those were the ones that I've just sort of focused on. But if you grew up listening to these, this one has A Hard Day's Night, Tell Me Why, let's see, I Should Have Known Better, If I Fell, and I Love Her, and Can't Buy Me Love. So it has a lot of famous songs. but it is a mixed bag because it's got the instrumentals in there. Then the next one was Something New, and this one has Things We Said Today. This one actually has a little bit kind of more of a mixed thing because it's also got And I Love Her on this. I guess this is the vocal version actually. And If I Fell, yeah, it's kind of hard to say, unless you're really into the Beatles, you're not going to really know all of this stuff. So there's a lot to investigate and explore, kids. Beatles 65, and this one features a No Reply, I'm a Loser, Mr. Moonlight, Honey Don't, She's a Woman, I Feel Fine. So another good group of jangly tunes, and the early Beatles, and sort of I guess, more of a comp too, because this has Please Please Me, P.S. I Love You, Baby It's You, Do You Want to Know a Secret, Twist and Shout, Love Me Do. So great songs. This one was kind of like later. By then, the kids had bought all those songs on 45s and spun them a lot. So anyway, if you're into finding out more about the American monos and you want good copies of them, we tend to have a lot of like the used ones of these on the shelves from time to time, but whether or not they're in good shape is another thing, because you're talking young teens were playing these albums a lot and playing them to death and sometimes playing them past the point of listenability. I guess that sort of gives them a certain charm and a certain patina when you hear all the pops and cracks on there or whatever. But all right, new releases then. So I mean, those are new, but new albums. We've got the new album from Zach Bryan, The Great American Bar Scene. This album started streaming about 4 months ago, and they kept pushing the release date back, and here it is. We finally have it. This has a few guest appearances too. Bruce Springsteen is on this. Watch House. John Mayer's on it. John Moreland and Nolene Hoffman. There's some sort of controversy going on with him right now, and some girlfriend or ex-girlfriend, and he's sort of downgraded his social media presence and whatever. But apparently, I mean, people really like this album and they've been waiting for it for a little while. So hopefully, he's still young. He'll make it through all of that. And this will be the next Zach Bryan that people are really like digging. His other stuff sells really well. And I have to say, like, for a sort of young country artist, I guess country Americana in this part of the country, he does exceedingly well. Him and Chris Stapleton are probably two of the biggest, if not the biggest, sellers for us. So anyway, I suppose there's always like Morgan Wallen too, but Father John Misty and his new album, I can't say it. Mahashmashana. Say that 3 times fast. And this is the Loser Edition. Sub Pop does really special pressings for the Loser Editions with colored graphic and whatever artwork in the vinyl. Josh Tillman. So this is an 8-track, this album with 8 songs, but it runs almost 50 minutes long. The first track, the title track, Mahashmashana, is over 9 minutes long. This also features great Josh Tillman type song titles. Father John Misty as Josh Tillman and the Accidental Dose. Or I Guess Time Just Makes Fools of Us All. And Screamland was one of the singles, which was on he had a collection that came out earlier this year, sort of like a greatest hits that really weren't hits, but a nice double vinyl collection of that stuff. So sort of like catching up with Father John Misty. So anyway, new Father John Misty, new Opeth album, and this is called The Last Will and Testament, and kind of a suitably creepy cover here. And I'm assuming those are the guys on the back, dressed up to look like one of these old posed photos. So, they started out more kind of like metal, like non-melodic sort of, and became much more sort of progressive or proggy sounding as they went along. So their fan base has kind of like shifted, and they have a little bit from both, where maybe some of the early fans were like, oh, you're getting a little bit too like happy sound or too light for what they liked, and then other people embrace the new sound and really like it. So it's not really a new sound for them anymore. But New Smashing Pumpkins, this is their new album. They're really challenging me on titles and content today. Agori Mori Mei, I think that's how you say that. So the last, and again, this has been streaming for months, and it's finally out on vinyl and CD. The last record, Atom, that one was like a triple or quadruple album, like this massive set. And while it was interesting, it was so all over the map. I think Billy was so like wanting to do like another melancholy type situation, and he got it. But I don't know if it was more, sort of had a backlash in a way, because it was so all over the map. And I think he was just, trying to show everything that he can do. So this one is a little bit smaller, pared back, just a single album. So just a single album. But he keeps going. Another one who keeps going. Sometimes these things, I show these in these videos and I'm like, or put pictures up, I'm like, this makes me sort of uncomfortable doing it, but business is business, whatever it is. So got to do it. Marilyn Manson, his new album, One Assassination Under God. Bone with black splatter vinyl. I'm assuming this is a Marilyn artwork because Brian does his own stuff. Yeah, I mean, he's had a rough couple of years, mainly because he's kind of like been under the law, the scrutiny of the law a lot. So, yeah, I don't know. I haven't really followed his music in a long time, but there's a new Marilyn Manson. So there's also a new Kim Deal. I can recommend that without any sort of misgivings. So a former member of the Pixies, and Kim is here doing a solo record. I think it might be her first, actually. She's in the Breeders also quite a bit. This album's called Nobody Loves You More. This is the limited Florida Orange vinyl. She's been getting good reviews for this. So nice case in point of aging gracefully in rock music, I suppose. It's a shame that she and the guys in the Pixies couldn't really like get along at some point, but it is what it is. New Michael Kiwanuka, and it's called Small Changes. This was produced by Danger Mouse. I think Michael is one of the most gifted sort of modern sort of R&B folk songwriters. He sort of goes a little deeper than most R&B stuff, speaking his truth. And this is on an indie exclusive Green Marble vinyl. Green Marble, that's kind of an interesting color for this cover. It's supposed to be a very sort of introspective album if you're into like Sade, Bill Withers, stuff like that. Another cool soul band. I'm glad to see this come out. Black Pumas, and this is their new live record. It's called Live from Brooklyn Paramount, and this is a great band, and it's cool that they put out a live record because they really shine when they're on stage, I think. And this is a new live album featuring the Electric Church Experience in the midst of the Chronicles of a Diamond tour, featuring Colors, Black Moon Rising, and More Than a Love Song on Brooklyn Brownstone 2 LP edition. So, Black Pumas. A little bit of hip hop in here too. Killer Mike and his new album, Michael and the Mighty Midnight Revival. A member of Run the Jewels, and Songs for Sinners and Saints. Indie record store exclusive, limited edition ruby red vinyl. It says an epilogue to the Michael era. So, yeah, I guess he had another album called Michael out a year or two ago. This features Anthony Hamilton, Offset. Let's see. I'm just trying to figure out some of these names. I'm having a tough time reading. Anyway, Troy Durden, Key Glock, Project Pat, Ty Dolla Sign. Yeah, great rapper. And then another one from Benny the Butcher. And this one's called Stabbed and Shot 2. Also, 38 Special is on this, featuring Busta Rhymes, El Camino, Ransom, OT The Real, and Class Murda. So various producers pressed on black and white splash color vinyl. Benny the Butcher. Yeah. All right. Some jazz for you too. There's a little of everything today. McCoy Tyner and Joe Henderson. This is a new Blue Note release, also featuring Henry Grimes and Jack DeJohnette from the legendary Slugs in 1966. Deluxe 2 LP 180 gram set, transferred from Jack DeJohnette's original tape reel and mastered by Matthew Luthans. I never said that. Recorded by engineer Orville O'Brien in New York City nearly 60 years ago. Liner notes by Nate Chinnan. Statements by Jason Moran, Josh Redman, and others. I've had a few requests for this. So McCoy Tyner in particular is very popular in jazz and for Blue Note as a label. Duke Pearson, Wahoo. This is the Blue Note Classic reissue for this week. And this is mastered from the original analog tapes by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio, featuring Joe Henderson, Donald Byrd, Bob Cranshaw, James Spalding, and Mickey Roker. Not Mickey Rourke. Mickey Roker. I wonder if he's related to Al Roker. And if he's related to Al Roker, I wonder if he's related to Lenny Kravitz. Because Al and Lenny are related. I don't know. Mickey Roker. I mean, Roxy Roker. She was in the Jeffersons, right? So who knows? Anyway, I am digressing. This is, what year was this? 1965. Duke Pearson. They've released a few Duke Pearson reissues lately on Blue Note. This is kind of interesting. I think this actually came out last week, and we finally got it. John Batiste's Beethoven Blues, the Batiste Piano Series, Volume 1. So this is basically taking a bunch of Beethoven stuff and I flashed out really fast. Beethoven stuff and doing sort of like variations, improvisations on it. He does Fur Elise, Symphony No. 5, Moonlight Sonata Blues, 7th Symphony Elegy, Waldstein Wobble, and it ends with, and there's also the 5th Symphony in Congo Square. It ends with Fur Elise Reverie, 15 minutes long. Well, the original Fur Elise runs about 3-4 minutes, so that's definitely improvisation stuff going on there, as you would want in your jazz. Okay, whoop. Sorry, folks, got to do a little bit of maneuvering there. Don Henley, a reissue of his album I Can't Stand Still. This is the album featuring Dirty Laundry, was the big hit. Johnny Can't Read was also on this. This was his iconic debut solo album. It was a big commercial success at the time. It took forever for it to come out on CD. I don't know why, but anyway. I Can't Stand Still was sort of a minor hit too, but Dirty Laundry was the big hit there. If you heard the song, if you heard it start, you'd probably know instantly what it is if you didn't know it by the title. U2, How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb. So this is another reissue of this album. The 20th anniversary remastered. There's the bonus track, Fast Cars, is included at the end of the vinyl now. This includes the hit singles Vertigo, Sometimes You Can't Make It on Your Own, and City of Blinding Lights. For me, this is the last really great U2 album. I mean, they've done okay albums since then, but this one in particular was quite good. And there's also a record store day um, little sort of EP mini album coming out next Friday that has 10 sort of unreleased tracks from that era. I think one of them is the theme from Batman, which, I mean, I suppose with their connection to being on a Batman soundtrack, maybe 10 years before that album came out. I don't know why it's on there, but um, looks interesting. One of my favorite records of the year is Pet Shop Boys. And people who know me will know that. The album is called Nonetheless. This is the deluxe edition on vinyl. It's a 3 LP expanded edition featuring the demos for every song on the album. Plus, there's a 4-track EP in here that has their new single, which is a cover of Mott the Hoople's All the Young Dudes. And it's not bad, actually. Pet Shop Boys, they usually will put out an album and then somewhere down the road, 6 months or so later, they'll release some kind of cover version. What have they covered in the past? They've done things like Viva La Vida, the Coldplay song. They've done U2's Where the Streets Have No Name. And famously, their biggest hit of doing that was the first time they did it, which was Always on My Mind, the Elvis and Willie Nelson song. So that's kind of like par for the course. They've done Somewhere from West Side Story. They usually do like 1 or 2 covers per album. So if they don't, then it's like, where are the covers? Bush, 16 Stone, and this is a new anniversary edition of this. This is the silver vinyl edition, limited. This is the album, their biggest hit, their first album, Gavin Rossdale and Company, Out of the Box, featuring Glycerine, Everything Zen, Come Down, Little Things, and Machine Head. This is such a popular record. My gosh. I mean, it was as popular as like the albums by Stone Temple Pilots, Pearl Jam, anything that was huge in that era. It was a very big album. Another massive album, Motley Crue's Dr. Feelgood. This is an anniversary edition. This is the 35th anniversary. And it's the indie retail exclusive Ghostly Ruby and Clear vinyl. And it's the 6 times platinum #1 album featuring Kickstart My Heart, Dr. Feelgood, and Without You. I've told the story before that when I first started working in a record store, this was the first album, the first big release that we sold, and the line was like around the building for it. There were hundreds of people. I think we may have sold 300 or 400 copies of that the first day. Times have changed, people. You're missing out if you're not doing the record thing or the CD thing, whatever you do. UFO and a reissue of their album Obsession. This is probably, I don't know, the last of their really great 70s run of albums. This one features Only You Can Rock Me, Pack It Up and Go, Arbory Hill, Ain't No Baby, Looking Out for #1, Hot and Ready, Cherry, You Get the Picture. This actually comes with a bonus live show. All of their vinyl reissues have had live shows added. From October 1978 at the Agora Ballroom in Cleveland. And it's 2 records of live. So you get the album and then 2 records of live stuff. The album's the new 2024 mix remaster. The album is a remaster and the Live in Cleveland is a new mix. And it's $43. Not too bad for 3 records. Another classic rock album getting a reissue. Judith Priest, Rock-a-Rolla. And this is really cool. They've got the actual embossed cover here. A take on Coke bottle tops and whatever. This is the 50th anniversary, remixed and remastered. This album lit the eternal metal flame as real and fresh as ever 5 decades on, says Rob Halford. Well, of course he would. It's his band. Limited edition black vinyl, 180 gram, includes download card. So, God, I can't believe some of these things are like 50 years old. That's crazy. Third Base, the Cactus album, great hip hop release. This is what I don't. It must have been from like the very late 80s, 89. This featured. I mean, this kicked off a whole scene here. But it featured the Gas Face was one of the big singles here. Soul in the Hole, Stymie's theme. They were sort of one of a kind. Well, one of the few Caucasian rappers, I guess, or not necessarily all African American. Sort of like, I don't know. They kind of were in a class of their own. I suppose that like House of Pain kind of came along and was sort of in this vibe too. But they kind of get put with like Public Enemy and De La Soul and Beastie Boys, that whole scene. So Third Base, Cactus album, great classic hip hop, great classic 80s British pop. Thompson Twins, Into the Gap. Talk about a band that like, their image over time has really kind of unfortunately let them down because it's so cartoonish in a way, but the music actually, especially on this album, was really good. I love this one, and Quick Step and Sidekick's the one that came before this one. But Tom Bailey, Alana Curry, Joe Leeway. Look, they had songs that Hold Me Now was a massive US hit. I think it hit number 3, stayed there for a while. This also featured Dr. Doctor, which was another top 10, top 20 hit. And You Take Me Up was a single here. The Gap and Sister of Mercy were also hits. It's interesting because it looks like the cover, I don't know if they may have redone the song order on this. I'm not really sure. I can't tell if this is the British order or the American one. But anyway, this is the double platinum album remastered at Abbey Road, 140 gram opaque red vinyl. And it's the 40th anniversary of that. Well, there's another thing that makes me feel really old. All right. The Melvins and Houdini, a remaster of this, or a reissue. This is Music on Vinyl. Did this. It's a cool sort of like textured cover too. Gatefold. And this features, it was a limited edition of 2,500 individually numbered copies on purple and red marble color vinyl. So it's nice seeing Melvins get some actually formal type issues here, so reissues. New Order, a couple of my favorite songs of theirs. A lot of their stuff didn't end up on albums, or if they were on albums, they were different somehow. And the one that I didn't get in this collection is State of the Nation, but no big loss because that's my least favorite of the 3 that came out here. But Bizarre Love Triangle, one of the best singles of the 80s, I think, 1986. Definitely one of the grooviest things New Order ever did. And this 12-inch mix is great. And if you didn't, if you want to go a little further, Touched by the Hand of God is another great single of theirs. Their covers are all very nondescript, but this is actually, this was not on any of their albums. So it kind of ended up being like a single that just kind of was a standalone. But it's really a great song. Yeah, we didn't get State of the Nation. So, but there was a box set of the album Brotherhood that just came out. And those are featured as part of the Brotherhood campaign. I'm getting close to the end here, folks. Isabel Campbell and Mark Lanigan, Ballad of the Broken Seas, And this is a great album of theirs from Cooking Vinyl. Put this out originally. I want to say this was like late 90s or early 2000s. Doesn't have a date on it that I see. But anyway, Isabel, very kind of wispy. And Mark of Screaming Trees, he's had a lot of reissues recently. Special AKA and a reissue of their album In the Studio. This is a double half-speed master at 45, featuring Bright Lights, Lonely Crowd, Racist Friend, Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was an incredible single. Free Nelson Mandela. Jerry Dammers. Guy infamously difficult to work with, but yeah, so there's that. Monkeys, Changes, a reissue on Friday Music. I believe this is the red vinyl edition. Oh My, Ticket on a Ferry Ride, You're So Good to Me. It's another reissue of Monkeys, Changes. Album is typically sort of one of their hardest to get. And Big Thief, a reissue of their album Masterpiece. There was another one that came out, I believe, last week. Can't remember already. Sold it. So hopefully we'll get more of that. And then as far as CDs this week, something that might be of note to people, especially around here, the Philly Special Christmas Party. And these are usually like, I think only on vinyl. They might be on CD from the website, but they're actually making it available to be purchased in stores this year. This is the thing that Jason Kelsey sort of has a hand in. It's the third and final record of the Philly Special Christmas series by Jason Kelsey, Jordan Malata, and Lane Johnson. Your purchase of this album directly supports Operation Snowball, and an initiative by the Philly Specials to bring joy to every classroom in the Philadelphia public school system this holiday season. And this features a couple of guest stars here. There's not too much written on the back, but I know that Jason's wife sings a little bit on one song or has something to do. And Mount Joy actually appears on this as well. So if you're a Mount Joy fan, you might want to check that out. I don't know if we're going to be carrying the vinyl. That may be sort of an exclusive from the website. So you may have to look for that if you want that. They all have been exclusives, and they're usually about $75. So your money's going to a good charity, but it's not cheap. So Chicago, and this is called Chicago and Friends 55, and this is a CD DVD. And this features other people kind of contributing here. Let's see, Robert Randolph, Steve Vai, Chris Stone, Kingfish Ingram, Robin Thicke, Chris Daughtry, a voice play, Judith Hill. So there's a lot of people kind of contributing to Chicago Live. They just had a live record out a couple weeks ago, but it was from 1971, I think. So that was more of like the old Terry Kath era. Miles Davis, box set of 54. This is Prestige Years. And this is available on vinyl too, but we haven't gotten those yet. But this features the 4 albums, I believe, or a lot from the 4 albums, featuring Sonny Rollins, Art Blakey, Thelonious Monk, Horace Silver, and more. Liner notes by Ashley Kahn. Anyway, this is like working and cooking and that era of Miles Davis. So I think a lot of people have that stuff already, but one of my favorite new records I've heard later this year is the new Underworld album. It's been a while since they had one. This one's called Strawberry Hotel. Their last one was kind of an interesting project where they did a different song a week for like a year and put it out as sort of a little mini box set. And this time we're getting, just a regular album, but it's pretty good. It's very like dreamy sort of, and then there's a lot of clubby stuff on it too. They're electronic duo. Interesting. So if you want to know more, see me about it. Eddie 9V and his new CD Saratoga, also a new release this week. So get your Underworld, get your Eddie 9V, get your Miles Davis. Okay. And I didn't want to take too much time today to do a review because, frankly, these videos are getting way too long. So I'm just going to recommend something that came out last year that I really loved and I keep going back to and listening to a lot. And that was the most recent album by Everything But the Girl called Fuse. And I think I recommended this on my list and it was on my top albums of the year. But I just keep going back to it because well, I sort of have always been fond of Tracy Thorn's voice, and it's gotten more ruddy and sort of huskier over the years. I don't know if she smokes a lot or what. She does sing a song about smoking, or not. It's not about smoking, but it's like something when she's like feeling tense and moody. She feels like she needs another cigarette or something. But the songs are either kind of like club leaning, or they're a little more sort of moody introspective jazzy singer-songwriter without like a bunch of drums. They're just sort of kind of quiet, pensive songs. A lot of hushed keyboards, jazz chords, minor chords. Tracy and Ben. Ben kind of has a folk jazz background. There's a lot of jazz sort of influence in his family, and he did a lot of sort of things that were sort of jazzy early on in their career. They both did a couple of sort of jazz leaning albums. So there's that too. But if you like things like Protection, the song that Tracy did with Massive Attack, I think you would really like Fuse, or even like the last couple Everything But the Girl albums. There are songs that have sort of glitchy kind of drum and bass type rhythms, and then others that are just so pillowy, and most of the songs are about loss or distance or the passing of time. There's a lot about passing of time. It was done during the pandemic. They hadn't made an album together. They're a married couple, and they hadn't made an album together in 24 years. She'd done a bunch of solo records, and he'd done kind of like solo work and whatever, but he started mainly as a guitarist and became sort of a club tech kind of guy, and she sort of changed her way of singing a little bit too, became more moody and introspective. And so there's a song about her mother passing away on here called Lost. Very, very heart-wrenching, and a lot of stuff about like how you just can't stop the passage of time, and things are not always in your control. And so it's an album full of kind of themes that I think resonate with some of us as we see the world shifting into ways that maybe aren't always to our liking, but you just have to kind of hope for better days and those sorts of things. So very soul searchy kind of through a clubby sort of sheen, but I definitely recommend Everything But the Girl's Fuse, and always really great sort of presentation and artwork. And Tracy's last four solo records were great too. She has a really nice Christmas album called Tinsel and Lights, if you can find that. So anyway, thanks everybody. I gotta run, gotta open the shop. Have a great day. Peace. Thanks so much for spending some time with me. Enjoy. We'll see you soon. Take care. Black Friday. Record Store Day, Black Friday next week. Don't sleep through it like I did last week. You were looking for the video and it was 2 hours late, and that's because I accidentally fell asleep. Ugh. I'll try not to do that again. All right. Take care. Thanks.